the distinction is between some forms of foreign capital and others. So when you get foreign direct investment, which is just, building new factories, creating new plants, whatever, I think that's unambiguously good. But it's more this hot stuff that comes in and goes, some foreign investment manager says suddenly the Indian stock market's looking great, I want to put in money there, and then something happens and the money comes back out again. So that's the kind of fickle, volatile flows that I think one has to be a little bit more careful about, and it's not anything theological, it's just that it's rooted in the experience of what's happened in the last 30 years, that all the major emerging market crises, Mexico in 82, India in 91, East Asia in the late 90s, Eastern Europe in 2007, all happened, in the aftermath of these huge inflows of foreign capital. And then people suddenly realize that, the country is not doing great for whatever reason, and then the money goes out, and the disruption that follows, is very costly. So that's the sense. So, certain kinds of investment are very good, unambiguously, but some we have to be more watchful about. We're very, very integrated in global markets now. Just to give you, I think our trade to GDP ratio is more than 50%. So it's quite high, and flows in and out of foreign money are almost completely unfettered. So in that sense, we are not immune. In 2013, for example, there was something called the taper tantrum, when the Fed indicated that it might start getting out of this QE policies. The impact on India was huge. We almost had a financial crisis, which just shows, the fault was not the Fed's fault, but basically, we were so integrated that any kind of domestic infirmities can easily then get leveraged and translated into, outcomes that are quite costly. On the one hand, being engaged internationally has a lot of benefits, but on the other hand, it also exposes you to the vagaries of what happens outside your country. And that's something that all policymakers have to balance. For some time, I think that our development priorities are going to be and have to be paramount. Right? And so the notion that we can decrease our carbon footprint, anytime soon is, I think, both unfair and I would even say unconscionable, because I think that means that, the energy that, hundreds of millions of Indians need, cannot be compromised. But I think the way to square that circle is, a combination of what we have to do internally and what has to happen externally. Externally, as I've said, the piece I wrote in the FT, basically saying that, we are going to use more and more coal because it's our cheapest source, and we need an international kind of Manhattan Project to try and make coal more clean. And that's what my piece in the FT was yesterday. I think domestically, I think we need to take actions. We've been, for example, imposing taxes on coal, taxes on petroleum. So all this reflects the sense that, we do want to have clean growth going forward, but, within the limits and constraints set by the fact that, hundreds of millions don't have access to any energy. I think about 30-40% of the population isn't connected to a grid, and unless a kind of basic living in these times requires access to energy and being connected to the grid, and that's something that we cannot compromise on. We need to provide opportunities, good employment opportunities to those who leave the farm. But it also means that, people who leave the farm leave equipped to take up high-paying, productive jobs elsewhere, and that they're not just pushed out of the farm and then, do low-paid, low productivity activities. So that's why I think it's both on the pull side, creating better opportunities, but on the push side, that you shouldn't get the bad push, you should get the good push, that people say, look, we're educated now, there's enough food, but, we're looking for better opportunities, and that's really not that, oh my God, we desperately have to move out because there's nothing here in rural India. And that therefore means focusing a lot on agriculture. And the irony is that, to get, good exit from the agricultural sector, you need a healthy agricultural sector, not an unhealthy agricultural sector. I define the idea of India as a kind of capaciousness that allows competing ideas of India to flourish. That's what I think is the idea of India, that, diversity, transparency, inclusive-ness, all of that, and democracy, and people being able to speak their minds, freedom of expression. And in a sense, we've kind of, political scientists marvel that a country that has managed to do this at relatively low levels of income, literacy, all these things. That's something that I think we Indians cherish quite a lot. That and therefore even the economic progress that we've made or we've not made enough of has to be seen in that context of have we done this in a context that we've preserved, cherished, and nurtured this basic idea of India as a kind of inclusive place where people with different conceptions of India can live, flourish, and express themselves.